Hashem's Vasaitivtach Upiagita Sacha. We're now in the 22nd Perek of Shmuel Beis. This Perek is a very personal, emotional, and revealing Perek of Tanakh. David HaMelech is so emotionally raw, and really this Perek is very much in line with Perek 18, Yud Ches of Tehillim. This is a Shira. We're not going to have any action-based Perek, but it is really David HaMelech revealing something about himself and trying very hard to give over his life lessons in a generalized enough way that we can feel it on our lives. So the Mefarshim go back and forth as to when David HaMelech wrote this Shira. And most say that he wrote it at the end of his lifetime, after having been saved by so many times. Now he differentiates all of the rest of the times with his being saved from Shaul HaMelech. Now, why is that? Because David is speaking about himself as a king and himself in a personal way. Personally, he was tried, very much chased after by Shaul, and then on a king, royal way, he went through a lot of travails. And he speaks like a human being. He speaks like someone who's been afraid, overwhelmed, betrayed, exhausted, saved, over and over. And it is a window into his heart. Many of the phrases are there as ideas to remind us of a relationship that he has with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and how the relationship shapes him, and so the relationship should shape us. Okay, so having said that, let's start at the beginning. So, in the first pasuk, we have a beautiful concept, and that is Vayidaber David. That David is speaking after his life is in review. And many times you can really only understand what life story is when you think about it after having experienced it. When you look back, when you can have a little bit more distance. And giving yourself that distance allows you to really see all of the details in the entirety and to learn life lessons. Hashem Sali. Now, he's going to talk about Sali, Sudasi, Alti. He goes on and on about different words. And in fact, we've mentioned before that just like the Eskimos have 10 words for snow, because it's valuable to them, here, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you do so much, and each one is a different way that I can be praising you. So Hashem in Sali, Hashem, you are my rock, and he's referring, according to Mitzvah David, to a real place. He's going through in his mind real places, and in fact, he took all of this from each one of the places that he went to is a reference, and means something else. So when you're my rock or your hiding place, well, many times I had to really hide. Falti, meaning the way that you saved me is exactly the way that I need to be saved. That Hashem saved us exactly how we need to be saved. Mehulal Akra. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm going to thank you before the Yeshua. Now we have an understanding that we think we can't say. We know for the halacha of Hallel that we don't thank Hashem until after we've experienced the good. Va'ani b'chastecha batachti yagel libi b'shuasecha ashir l'Hashem ki kamal alai. I can only ashir Hashem. I can only say thank you to Hashem ki kamal alai after he has done something to me. But in a general way, we can always thank Hashem before we actually experience, because we just believe that tefillah of thanking Hashem, we thank Hashem every day. So with the idea and the bitachon that of course HaKadosh Baruch Hu, everything you're going to do for me today is going to be amazing, and it's always going to be l'tova. But I don't need necessarily. David HaMelech is saying, I don't need proof. I just believe in you. I know that you're going to come through. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're mishperei maves. And what does that mean? That trauma, all the trauma, not actually the danger, but Hashem, you don't just save my physical life, but emotionally, you allow me to be sane, even when sometimes it's really hard. And, we have those moments like, Hashem, oh my gosh, there's just so much going on. Just make sure that my mental health comes out okay at the end of all this. And there are some times where we feel stuck. Chavlei Sha'ol. There are times where we feel suffocated and hopeless and stuck. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you are going to help us to get unstuck. You're going to cut the ropes of whatever it is that's literally choking us. B'tzar li ekra. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, your tefillah, that the tefillah that I give to you can go so far. It can even go all the way to the Heichal. We know that there are times, especially if we cry, that the gates of Shamayim are not, they don't close. And my tefillos, I really believe, Hashem, that every time that I daven, my tefillos can go so far. The tirash ba'aretz, when a tzaddik cries, the world shakes. And that it means something to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that my pain is not just mine, but it goes and it reverberates and it echoes in Shamayim. And in Pasuk Tes, when it says Allah Ashan, Hashem responds with intensity, that He moves very fast. And so as soon as justice is needed, we get justice. We don't have to wait. It is as quickly as smoke. Vayet Shamayim. What is that? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes down to me when I can't climb up. There are times in life where I am in so low, or that I need your help, and Hashem, He doesn't wait for us to climb. He goes, Vayet Shamayim, He comes down from the Shamayim to bring us up and to give us what we need. He doesn't just stay up in Shamayim. What a beautiful image, if we could just picture. And David HaMelech is saying all of these because he's experienced it, because he feels it. Vayarkav al kruv. And it's never slow. He rides on a chariot, which it allows for there to be speed. Hashem doesn't go slowly or wait. He just does it quickly. By Yashik Choshech. And sometimes there is darkness, and we have darkness, and we're hidden. Haster, there are times where Hashem is hiding behind the clouds or in darkness. But that darkness isn't leaving us. Hashem never leaves us. He's always there. It's in preparation. It's to help us. It's somehow to be at our advantage. And then in Pasuk Yud Gimel, and sometimes there's light that bursts from the darkness. And that means that there was a good reason. There was a reason why we struggled. There needed to be some sort of breakthrough. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes it that way, that we're in the darkness so that we can break through into the light. Hashem Ra'am, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, His voice overpowers all other noise. And when Hashem speaks, every other voice fades. His voice in our head, in our minds, in the world is so much louder than everybody or anything else. Vayishlach Hitzim. And He's so precise, like lightning. It hits exactly where it needs to hit. So Hashem, you're like lightning, that you're precise. Hashem, you're like thunder, that you're so loud. Hashem, you are like bursts of in the darkness. Hashem, you sometimes are the darkness itself. But all of that is the tova for our benefit. Hashem, Hashem, you might even ruin the way that you created things for one single person. Because if someone needs that as their salvation, you're going to give it to them. Yishlach mimarom, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sometimes Hashem has to get David HaMelech out of his own head and save him from himself. Hashem, you even do that. You can save us from us, right? Sometimes we're our own worst enemy. Hashem, what else can you do? Hashem, we don't have to be any stronger. You know why? Because all I need is you. You are going to be stronger than my enemy. I don't have to be. I just have to believe in you and have you do the rest. And sometimes, Hashem mish'ali. Hashem, you are the only one that doesn't leave me. Everyone else in our lives can potentially leave, but not Hashem. Okay. And Pasuk Chaf, Hashem doesn't only pull me out, but Mirchav, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sometimes does it so that I can have some menucha and space to just breathe. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sometimes rewards, not kitzidkasi. Not always am I perfect, but rather Hashem rewards that I go in the right direction, and that He is so loyal to me that even though I am not perfect, and David HaMelech says, I am definitely not perfect, but He's still loyal to me. He still believes in me, and He still thinks of things that I can do well. And that belief system helps so much. Shamarti darachai, Kadosh Baruch Hu. David says, I stayed loyal even when it wasn't convenient. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu rewarded me for that, because we get rewarded for our loyalty. And even when it's not necessarily, it doesn't show up and it's not easy, HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves the fact that we can be loyal. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Mishpativ l'negdi, I always kept, right, Shivisi Hashem l'negdi summit, that I am always Hashem. Everything of you is always in front of me. And it's not always, I don't have to know everything, but I have to hold on to whatever it is that I know. It's halech tamim. I am Hashem. What do you want? You want us to be tamim. Tamim, which means what? That honest. I don't have to be perfect. I have to go in the way of perfection by just being honest with myself and with other people. I can have flaws. That doesn't mean that I'm not complete because I have flaws, but rather, why? Because Hashem is tzidkasi. Hashem, you're exact. Everything you do is kedas v'kedin, and so I believe that Hashem's justice, says David HaMelech, it might feel like it's chaotic. It may not feel like it's exact, but it is exact. Im chassid, however you are, if you're a chassid, if you're good, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu mirrors your midos. Whatever you choose to be, that's a reflection of how Hashem is going to mirror how He is to you. And that's a very important point, right? That at the end of the day, your life is a reflection of the decisions that you made, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu treats you the way that you treat other people. Okay, in Pasuk 27, there are a lot of purity, and im navar, that if we are pure, then what's going to happen is it's going to create a closer path to Hashem, because we're going to gain a lot of clarity. And the more that we have this purity and that we're trying to be the best people we can be, the more that we have this new found understanding of how things are supposed to be, which will help us to increase our clarity. Now, in Pasuk 28, HaKadosh Baruch Hu lifts the people, Am Ani, the people who make themselves humble. Hashem gives you space and raises you up. So you don't have to be running after kavod. If you're not running after kavod, Hashem will make sure you have kavod. Beautifully in Pasuk 29, Neri, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you are like a lamp through the darkness. But it's not that Hashem is ever going to take away our darkness. It doesn't work that way. But rather, He can help us to give us the vision to look through the darkness. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it gives us courage beyond regular limitations. So it makes me stronger to believe in Hashem and allows me to go even beyond my own capabilities. Now, I don't always have to understand, and that's okay. Hashem, Tamim Darko, Hashem's path is perfect. I don't have to be perfect, but Hashem still takes me the way that I am. But Hashem's path is always perfect. Mikel, there's nothing else but you, Hashem. Nothing. Sometimes Hashem removes every option so that you see the only one that was ever really real. And that here, David HaMelech, nothing else could he rely upon, and nothing else ever worked when he did rely upon it except Hashem. And so sometimes Hashem does that so that we can really feel, wow, it's only you, Hashem. I can't get anywhere else with anybody else but only you. And Hashem, He is our strength. Ma'uz Chayal. He is our strength. And He is inside of us. So we have to feel the strength that we can get through even in the difficult times. And Hashem doesn't teach us to just, how does Hashem teach us to cope? Beautifully, the image in Pasuk 34 is that just like a deer is on a cliff, Hashem doesn't take away the cliffs and the dangerous moments in our life, but He helps us to learn how to actually navigate them. How just like the deer can kind of dance on the cliff, so too we can dance, or we can climb. We can do something with the cliffs instead of just being succumb to the difficulty that they bring. And Hashem, Hashem, you elevate your greatness, and I am great because you're great. So because everything that Hashem is great, that helps to elevate us as long as we follow Him. And it is very, very beautiful that Hashem equips us with what we need. He doesn't just protect us. He doesn't just say, and this is something even with parenting. You can protect your kid in the short term, but you have to give them long-term coping tools. So too here, Tazrini Chayil, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He doesn't just protect us. He also gives us what we need so that we can take care of ourselves. And it is, then He also goes through what our enemies. So in Pasuk 41 and 42, the enemies call out, but winning is not about strength. It's about who stands with us. The Ein Moshiach, they have nobody to stand with them. We, on the other hand, Hashem is the one that we have. And so the enemies are going to lose their fight because they never had a chance. They had no one ever good. And we have, something. We have leadership, and they don't have that. These B'nai Nechar, they're going to ultimately submit to Hashem because they have nothing to follow. And so we're in a much better position because Hashem gave us that position, because Hashem is fighting our battles, and He's doing that Hanotein Nakamos, and He handles all of justice. He's going to give them back what they deserve. And Hashem is not just, He's a Chai Hashem. He's alive, He's active, He's present in our life. He doesn't just leave us. And it's really important that we know that unlike the Goyim who say that, oh yeah, Hashem created the world, sure, no problem, but then He left. We never had that. We always have Hashem. And we have always someone to thank, and someone to bank on, and something to hold on to. And the fact that we are going to we have to thank Hashem. We always have to thank Hashem. And the beautiful idea is, in the last pasuk, which is very important, which is that David HaMelech, he was strong, but he wasn't just a warrior. He survived because HaKadosh Baruch Hu helped him. He wasn't perfect, but he was honest. He wasn't fearless. He kept calling out to Hashem, and he wasn't always victorious. He lost a bunch of times too. But that's why he went through these ups and downs, and all of those helped to set a foundation, the foundation that's ultimately going to bring Mashiach, because it's through honesty, through trials and tribulations, but never stop coming back to Hashem. Never stop making it that Hashem is there in our life. And Hashem always takes care of the people who struggle, who fall, who cry. Those of us who, as long as we can trust in Hashem, that will help and hold on for generations. And that's why this Shira is so beautiful, because it gives us hope that Hashem will save us, and He will not just save us, but that the saving is going to be like in the last pasuk, Migdal Yeshuas Malko Bi'oseh Chesed L'Mashicho. It's going to be that it's for the time of Mashiach, that ultimately this redemption is not just going to be in the short term, but David's life is a blueprint for how we're going to get to Geula, how we're going to get to the final Shira. There are 10 songs. This is, one of them. The last one is the song that we'll sing during the time of Mashiach. The first song was when the Bnei Yisrael were leaving Mitzrayim. And then we had in the Midbar, we had Yehoshua, we had Devorah and Barak, until finally we get to this song. This song is the continuous process along the lines of Geula. And so when our times are tough and we are on a cliff, or there's a wave, or there's darkness, we have our own internal struggles and battles. What we go through in life, all of those difficulties, our own darkness, our own struggles, we have to believe, like David HaMelech does, that Hashem will help us in all of those situations. He is the only thing that could really get us through. And so if we believe and we struggle and we do our best, and we're humble enough to know that it is only through relying on HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we can ever get anywhere, but we put as much effort that we can, then He will reach back out and strengthen us and come down, so to speak, from Shamayim to be able to help us in the most beautiful way, to empower us to be our best self, and to make it in a way that perhaps we don't even deserve. But because He loves us so, He wants that we should be able to have a future, and that future should go and clearly get us all the way to the time of Mashiach. And that's why this Perek, just like in Tehillim, which goes into the soul, because it suggests what we know to be true, which is that Hashem loves us so much, and if we tap into that love, we believe in it, and we are, David HaMelech says, I would rather believe in you, Hashem, even if I don't have proof, than from people who I have a lot of proof from, because that level of emunah and bitachon is what's going to make it much more successfully. That's believing in the source of all strength, our own personal strength, and the continuous strength that will get us to the time of Mashiach B'mihira B'Yameinu.